In our last 2 sessions, we've been discussing a woman whose ex-husband Bill gets angry and takes it out both on her and his 3 daughters. I helped her see that Bill is just empty and afraid and reacting to protect himself. Then we went over some of the ways that she could help her daughters through this and concluded that it would be best if she could love them and teach them the principles of real love. Now, back to the writer of the letter. So, what exactly can you say to your girls when Bill sulks and withdraws? You could say something like this. So, right now, I'll be you talking to your daughters. What we all want most in the world is to feel loved. We want to feel loved without conditions, to be loved with all our mistakes and flaws. That's what you 3 want too. You've always wanted it from me as your mother, and I have to tell you that I'm just beginning to learn that I have not done a good job of loving you in that way. I have not loved you without expectations. In unconditional love, or real love, there is no disappointment or anger. If I get disappointed or angry at you, what I'm saying is that what I want is way more important than your happiness. Really, every time I get irritated, I'm saying that I don't love you. Because real love is caring about someone's happiness without wanting anything in return. When I'm angry, it's obvious I do want something from you. And I've been disappointed and irritated with you guys more times than I can count. I also know that because of that, I've hurt you many times. And I'm so sorry for that. Real love is so important in our lives that if we don't have enough of it, we feel empty and afraid. We're in pain. We're miserable. It's awful. And then we do all kinds of dumb things to get rid of our pain. We use anger to make us feel more powerful, for example. We tell lies to protect ourselves. We act like victims to get sympathy. All kinds of stupid stuff. You've seen me do that many times with you. When I don't feel loved, I get angry at you guys easily. I'm impatient. I'm not loving. And that's exactly what's happening with your father. He hasn't gotten much real love in his life from the time he was a kid. So he feels empty and alone and afraid a lot. And in that condition, he just can't be loving to anybody, not just you. Now I'm back to being me, not speaking for you. Then you could pick out a specific argument or conflict that your daughters have experienced lately between themselves, a time when they were angry or unkind to each other. You might choose the daughter who was most angry in the conflict. Let's call her Susie and say something like this. And now, again, this is you speaking to the daughter. Susie, when you were angry in the argument, were you feeling loved? And then you wait for her answer, but of course she wasn't feeling loved. And then you say to her, instead, you were afraid that your sister was taking something from you and that you'd be powerless, and you didn't like that. So then what did you do? You protected yourself, which is a very natural thing to do. When we feel attacked or afraid, we protect ourselves automatically, without thinking. You can hardly stop yourself, in fact. But even though it's natural, when you protect yourself with your sister, it means that you're not thinking about her needs. You couldn't be. And she feels that. She feels that you're not loving her. And that is what your father is doing right now with you. In a conversation I had with him, I was not as loving as I could have been. Then he felt threatened and reacted by defending himself with anger at me and by not calling me and by not talking to you 3 girls. It's not about you girls. It's just that when we don't feel loved and when we react in anger, we get kind of crazy, kind of nuts. We don't think clearly. We certainly don't think lovingly. Susie, when you were mad at your sister, you were not thinking loving thoughts either. So right now, your father is simply not able to love you. He wants to, but his emptiness and fear are making that just too difficult. So relax, and eventually he'll become less afraid and He'll call you again. Children much younger than yours understand this reasoning, and it's a huge help to them because they really hate the unknown. It confuses them, frightens them. When your children are confused and frightened, they assume that they must be the problem when your husband treats them badly. They think, if only we were better children, then surely Dad wouldn't treat us like this. Eventually they become convinced that there is no real love in the world, and that is such a tragedy. So that's how you help your daughters respond to this situation. But what about you? We'll talk more about that in the next session.